Your host, Christene Marie. Once again, I am conducting this show from the airport. I am on my way to Chicago for an association event for facility maintenance cleaners, which is very niche. I'm very excited to see how this turns out. I'm so excited to support a dear friend of mine. Uh, I think she's actually the president of the board of the association. So I'm excited to go in and be with her and support her and hopefully get some new business for funding from post marketing. So we'll see how that goes. But for all intents and purposes, welcome to this show and welcome to a new day. Good morning. I really want to, I love starting off with a reminder of why we're doing this. Why do we get on every single day and remind ourselves of what is true? And what is the outcome of that? And really, the purpose is to orient our mind, body, soul, spirit, our thoughts, ensure that our behaviors and our beliefs align with what is more true than what the world is telling us, than what is going on in the media, than even what our own emotions or thoughts might even say. Because each one of us, for so long as we don't do this work, so many of us are operating on old programs and just kind of old patterns and ways of thinking as it pertains to what happened to us in our past. So the goal in so many ways is to have the ability and cultivate the skill of pulling a thought and examining it and saying, oh, I didn't know I was thinking that. And then pulling out an emotion and being like, oh, why is that there? And being curious about it. And really anything that we feel and comes to mind, both of which deserve just a look in the mirror and why am I thinking that way? Why am I feeling this way? And then being able to get in the driver's seat of our own lives. Because until we start asking those questions, our subconscious and the past are the ones ultimately driving. So, for those reasons, we gather every single day, reminding ourselves of what's true, being aware of what's going on inside of us, and then being able to take control so that we can operate and walk in the fullness of our own potential. Because a lot of those old patterns and programs that we saw modeled for us, that we inherited, ultimately really aren't going to allow us to be who we can be and the fullness of that. And so, for all of those reasons, that's why we do this every day. And I started actually going live June 23rd, 2025. So we're coming up on a full year of going live every single day. And throughout this time, there's just been so much that's been shared with guests that have come on here. For those of you who are recurring visitors, and attendees of the show, you've seen us have really amazing conversations with folks, but also in the chat on YouTube we end up having some really meaningful conversations where people are sharing what they've experienced and sharing what they've learned and lessons. And so I'm so grateful for this community and for each one of you being willing to do the work. Because until each one of us as individuals assume radical responsibility for ourselves, only then can we start seeing a change in the culture, since the culture is made up of a conglomerate of individuals. So it starts with you and me. And I believe and I know I've seen it, what a difference an individual can make. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive into our daily lesson from A Course in Miracles. We started reading that at the beginning of this year, and we just read through a lesson every single day. And before I get to that, Brian, I'm so glad to see you. American Redneck, good morning. Kasim, awesome. Good to see you, my friend. Darren, hello. Anthony, good morning from Scotland. Oh, you're exec. Good morning. Fabian, good morning. It's been a little while. I'm glad to see you. All right, let's go ahead and dive into lesson today. It is lesson 159. I give the miracles I have received. No one can give what he has not received. To give a thing requires first you have it in your own possession. Here the laws of heaven and the world agree, but here they also separate. The world believes that to possess a thing, it must be kept. Salvation teaches otherwise. To give is how to recognize you have received. It is the proof that you have what is yours. Hmm. You understand that you are healed when you give healing. You accept forgiveness as accomplished in yourself when you forgive. You recognize your brother as yourself, and thus you do not perceive, and thus you do perceive you are whole. There is no miracle you cannot give, for all are given you. Receive them now by opening the storehouse of your mind where they are laid and giving them away. Christ's vision is a miracle. It comes from far beyond itself, for it reflects eternal love and the rebirth of love which never dies, but has been kept obscure. Christ's vision pictures heaven, for it sees a world so like to heaven that what God created perfect can be mirrored there. The darkened glass the world presents can show but twisted images of broken parts. The real world pictures heaven's innocence. Christ's vision is the miracle in which all miracles are born. It is their source, remaining with each miracle you give, and yet remaining yours. It is the bond by which the giver and the receiver are united in extension here on earth, as they are one in heaven. Christ beholds no sin in anyone, and in his sight the sinless are as one. Their holiness was given by his Father and himself. Christ's vision is the bridge between the worlds, and in its power can you safely trust to carry you from this world into one made holy by forgiveness. Things which seem quite solid here are merely shadows, transparent and faintly seen, at times forgot, and never able to obscure the light that shines beyond them. Holiness has been restored to vision, and the blind can see. This is the Holy Spirit's single gift, the treasure house to which you can appeal with perfect certainty for all the things that can contribute to your happiness. All are laid there already. All can be received but for the asking. Here the door is never locked, and no one is denied his least request or his most urgent one. There is no sickness not already healed, no lack unsatisfied, no need unmet within this golden treasury of Christ. How does the world remember what was lost when it was made? For here it is repaired, made new again, but in a different light. What was to be the home of sin becomes the center of redemption and the hearth of mercy, where the suffering are healed and welcomed. No one can be turned away from this new home where his salvation waits. No one is stranger to him. No one asks for anything of him except the gift of his acceptance of his welcoming. Christ's vision is a holy ground in which the lilies of forgiveness set their roots. This is their home. They can be brought from here back to the world, but they can never grow in its unnourishing and shallow soil. They need the light and warmth and kindly care Christ's charity provides. They need the love with which he looks on them, and they become his messengers who give as they received. Take from his storehouse, that its treasures may increase. His lilies do not leave their home when they are carried back into the world. Their roots remain. They do not leave their source, but carry its benefits with them and turn the world into a garden like the one from which they came, and to which they go again with added fragrance. Now they are twice blessed. The messages they bring from Christ have been delivered and returned to them, and they return them gladly unto him. Behold the store of miracles set out for you to give. Are you not worth the gift when God appointed it be given you? Judge not God's Son, but follow in the way he has established. Christ has dreamed the dream of a forgiven world. It is his gift, whereby a sweet transition can be made from death to life, from hopelessness to hope. Let us an instant dream with him. His dream awakens us to truth. His vision gives the means for a return to our unlost and everlasting sanctity in God. Y'all, I love this line here. Christ's vision is the miracle in which all miracles are born. It is their source, remaining with each miracle you give and yet remaining yours. It is the bond by which the giver and the receiver are united in extension here on earth as they are one in heaven. And this vision, we've talked about this actually quite a bit, that our a real aim for us is to see the world through God's eyes. Because what that does is it completely changes the fundamental reality of what we're seeing. I was actually kind of musing on A Course in Miracles and the lessons and the progression that they've really built upon. The author just did the most beautiful job of building in sequence and really logical reasoning, if this, then that, building up to this point today. We're on lesson 159. So obviously we've been doing this for 159 days. It was lesson maybe like 16 or 10, where she really laid and established the foundation that we see only through the lens of the past. And that is of utmost importance. You know, in order for us to even begin to get to this point of, oh, I want to see through the lens of God, we actually have to recognize that we are intentionally displacing and replacing the current lens that we hold. And the current lens that we hold is one of the past. And the one of the past always yields fear, because we're afraid of what happened in the past. We're not going to go back and reconcile and forgive and deal with the pain of the past. But what we end up doing is we then look at the future through that same lens. And now we're projecting the pain of the past or the fear of the past onto the future. So we're really actually not even free from the very thing which we're suppressing or ignoring. And so when we try to dream, we're actually really not able to do so because we're not seeing clearly. And when we try to engage in the present moment, whether it's through relationship or even business, y'all, I found that I read this book called Stop Self Sabotage by Pat Pearson 2 weeks ago. Excellent book. I highly recommend it for every single person listening. That book was so potent, and it rests on this I guess you could say premise that we look through the lens of the past. Because her thesis is effectively we are self-sabotaging ourselves through what we think we deserve. And what we think we deserve was conjured in our experiences in the past. So not only were those moments of pain that kind of fabricated a narrative around the world, but it also fabricated a narrative about ourselves and what we should look for and seek and strive to achieve. So one of the ways that we self-sabotage, for example, is if you are progressing in the corporate ladder, but you're now getting to a place where you're actually making more money than your parents did, you actually might self-sabotage and not get to the next level. Or worse yet, get a demotion, or maybe you move to another company and you take a lower position. And so the same goes with our finances, where we actually, if we are not feeling like we're worthy and we deserve the amount of money we're receiving, we actually might literally give it away, or again, do something to self sabotage where we stop making so much money. And I saw that with myself. I actually felt guilty anytime I had money. And so I would literally give it away. Like it was bad. And so there's so many ways which we self sabotage based on the past. Well, hold on, my alarm is going off. I'm at the airport, ready for a flight to Chicago. But it's so interesting because in order for us to replace the lens for a new one, that is the lens of God, to be able to see and operate through a lens of love rather than fear, we have to know what we're replacing. We can't just aim for a new target in any area of our lives until we understand where we're starting from. I worked with a coach, Dr. Jeff Spencer. We did a two-part session together. And he was the coach for Lance Armstrong and many other athletes. And the biggest thing that he had us do was, Christine, we have to recognize the baseline from which you're starting in order to then recognize, okay, what's the plan to get to where you're going? Because if we don't know our starting point, if we don't know the line upon which we're going to have the gunshot fire go, we don't know where we're starting from. We're not going to be able to reverse engineer, and the same goes for where we want to go. Do we even have clarity on where we want to go? Or is our future marked by the fear of the past? And we're actually planning out a future that is predicated and rooted in fear. Are we even able to dream without fear being a part of the story? And so if I am visioning for the future and I'm going somewhere, but it's marked by fear, well, I'm probably going to go somewhere I don't actually want to go. So we need to know where we're going and we need to know where we're starting from. And either way, we need to get fear out of there. And the only way we can do that is by reconciling the past. Because otherwise it's coloring and clouding, and we're not able to see clearly of that future. So Christ's vision, being able to see through the lens of God, and that comes so often for me, it's come through taking time to literally listen, to close my eyes and like shut out the rest of the world and just be still. In the stillness and in the silence, that is where the Latin root of intuition is intuere, which means to be taught from within. And so in order to kind of get to that quiet place that holds almost like stories and intelligence and data that I'm like, I don't know how I know that, but I do. And I know each one of you have experienced that kind of intuition where you're like, I don't know how I know this, but here it is. And so in order for us to get that, we actually need to dim down and like lower on the dial of like the radio noise and signal everybody around us so that we can increase that connection to the voice within us, because it's a quiet voice and it's going to be hard to tell the difference. I didn't know for about 25 years the difference between my intuition and the voice of the world or my own patterning, because that's another thing too. It's not just the noise out there, but even understanding in our own self what is a narrative of fear versus a narrative of love? What is the voice of God versus the voice of fear? So it's differentiating between our own intuition versus the voice of the world and everybody around us. Are we quiet enough to be able to listen there? But then it goes a layer deeper. Do we know the difference between what is being said effectively by fear versus love? I'm just going to jump here in the chat. Good morning. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning. Anthony, thank you. He says not pre-recorded. Manj, good morning. Hold on, I'm going to jump in. Okay. E-Man Castle Wall, good morning. From Milwaukee, I'm so glad you're here. Awesome, good morning. Rob Mine, good morning. I'm glad to see you. Nicholas, good morning. Darren, I'm glad to see you. The past is a scar on the soul, one way or another. Wow, that is so beautifully said. Wow. Sanzu, good morning. Thank you so much for joining. Pete, good morning. 1929, good morning, William. William from London, good morning. I will actually be up there in the next couple months, which I'm excited for. Sandy, good morning. Tony, y'all, thank you so much for joining this morning. I'm sorry that I need to jump off. Normally I have a longer time. This morning and tomorrow morning, I'm actually in the midst of travel for a work event. So I need to run, but thank you all so much for joining. And you just remember, there's so much opportunity for us to access that presence and peace if we're willing to take the time, be in quiet, and then intentionally listen. And that takes a sacrifice. It means putting this thing down, right? And it also means sometimes actually taking out the AirPods and turning off the music, turning off the podcast, and just listening to the discomfort of the silence. And eventually, at some point, silence actually becomes a haven for us. It becomes a place of peace where actually we can sit with ourselves and get rejuvenated rather than sit with ourselves and experience the discomfort of looking at ourselves and not liking what we see. At some point, if we do that long enough, our own inner self becomes a place that is a haven and a respite from the world around us. And we don't need to outsource our worth, our identity, because we know who we are and we know whose we are, and we're able to find meaning in the quiet and in the solitude. So with that, I will see you all tomorrow.